Mary lay there, weak and tired, on the cold hospital bed. Her illness, which had been persisting for some time, had taken a turn for the worse. Without the means to afford proper medical care, she had been surviving on mere drugs, her condition deteriorating with each passing day. Her husband, Emeka, could not bear to see her suffering any longer. Desperate to save his beloved wife, he borrowed money from a friend and rushed her to the hospital, holding to the hope for her recovery. However, that hope was shattered when the doctor, favoring a wealthy patient who had recently been admitted, neglected Mary in her critical state. Emeka's pleas fell on deaf ears as he watched helplessly, his heart breaking at the sight of his dying wife being pushed aside. In the last effort to save Mary, Emeka bravely confronted the doctor, begging for her immediate attention. But it was too late. By the time the doctor finally turned her focus to Mary, it was already too late. She had passed away, leaving behind her family. As he stood there, pained and angry at the injustice and neglect that had taken his wife from him, Emeka made a vow. In memory of Mary, he swore to do everything in his power to ensure that their son, Ben, would receive the education and opportunity to study medicine. Ben is Emeka's son, and although he also has an 11-year-old daughter, Ben holds a special place in his heart as his only son. When Ben excelled in his JAM exams and secured admission to a popular university in the country, Emeka offered him words of wisdom and encouragement. He urged Ben to strive for excellence and to make him, his late mother, and his younger sister proud. Ben's calm nature, intelligence, and good looks attracted the attention of many of his female course mates, who were drawn to him like bees to honey. Some of his male course mates grew jealous of Ben's academic success and popularity. Despite their flashy clothes, expensive cars, and lavish spending in clubs, the girls consistently showed more interest in Ben. The situation worsened when a guy named Wisdom, also known as Wizzy, felt so threatened by Ben's popularity that he resorted to seeking help from his fellow cult members. They devised a plan to lure Ben into their cult group, hoping to take his position and steal some of his spotlight. Wizzy, a popular guy in the department, was known for his wealth, even though the source of his riches remained unknown. He was the leader of a notorious cult group on campus called the Secret Brother of Fraud. This group targeted individuals who were eager to make quick money through fraud. During one of their cult meetings, Wizzy instructed Felix, one of his loyal followers, to bring Ben to their next gathering by any means necessary. You must ensure Ben attends our next meeting. Use any method at your disposal, whether it's beating, deceiving him, or even force. Just make sure he's here, Wizzy commanded Felix, who eagerly accepted the challenging task. Felix, driven by his loyalty to Wizzy and the help he is getting from him, set out to lure Ben into their cult. It was a quiet afternoon when Felix approached Ben unexpectedly. I would love to go with you to the night class today. Exams are approaching fast and I need someone to study with, Felix said. Ben was surprised at Felix's sudden interest in studying, knowing him as someone more focused on partying. Nonetheless, Ben gladly accepted Felix's offer to accompany him to the night class. Felix seemed pleased that his plan was falling into place as he smiled to himself and walked away. By 8 o'clock at night, the night class was bustling with students taking advantage of the steady light to study. Ben waited outside the hostel for Felix, who arrived shortly after. As they made their way to the night class, a group of guys confronted them, pointing guns and forcing them into a car. Ben couldn't believe his eyes when he realized it was Felix's own car they were being led into. Whispering in disbelief, Ben asked Felix, "Is this not your car?" To which Felix responded with a mocking smile, revealing the true intentions behind his sudden interest in studying together. As they arrived at a hidden spot on the school grounds, Felix and the other boys forcefully pulled Ben out of the car, guiding him deeper into the bush. Ben, scared and anxious, had no idea where they were leading him, but he silently prayed within his heart that they wouldn't do him any harm. In the center of the bush, a fire blazed, as the group of cult boys gathered around it, their voices raised as they sang their cult song. Spotting Ben, Wizzy signaled for silence, walking up to Ben and forcing him to kneel before him. "So, you think you're better than us, huh? What's your secret with all those girls hanging around you?" Wizzy demanded, his tone harsh. Ben, feeling the weight of their intimidating presence, remained silent, fearing the consequences of speaking up. To cut to the story short, I want you to join our brotherhood. You are popular in school. With you by our side, we can initiate more persons to this brotherhood, Wizzy said, moving around Ben. "I can't do that, Wizzy. I have responsibilities. My family has struggled so I could be here. I'm sorry, but I can't disappoint them," Ben responded, his voice trembling with fear. Before he could finish, Wiz's hand came down with a hot slap across his face, sending a sharp pain through Ben's body. It's not like you have a chance here. For the fact that we want you, we must get you. There are consequences of trying to play stubborn with us. It's either you join us and have a better life ahead of you, or your corpse will be taken to your father and sister. We have gotten every single detail we need about you, and trust me, both your life and that of your family will be in great danger if you decline this request, Wizzy boldly said to Ben, who was afraid beyond measure. Out of fear and trying to protect his family, Ben unwillingly joined the cult, unaware of the dangers that come with it. The weight of his decision hung heavy on his shoulders as he wondered what kind of life he had just signed up for. After luring Ben into their cult, Wizzy took the next step and initiated him into their dark rituals. With a razor in hand, he made a small cut on Ben's finger, collecting his blood. Then, he proceeded to make cuts on the hands of all the cult members, joining their blood together. In a scary turn of events, Wizzy instructed Ben to lick the blood, which he did, his mind filled with confusion and fear. Breaking the evil rules of the cult to Ben, Wizzy revealed the true nature of their activities. The cult operated through illegal means, using fraudulent practices like Yahoo to make money. The task was an evil one. In order to gain the power to attract wealthy clients from around the world, one had to sacrifice the blood of a loved one, someone deeply important to them. Failure to fulfill the task within a day would result to death. Wizzy coldly reminded Ben that they already knew who he loved most, his father. Shocked, Ben found himself trapped. The cult's demand that he kill the very man who had selflessly raised him and provided for his education seemed impossible to do. The weight of their threat was heavy on Ben, leaving him feeling like he had no option but to obey. That night, Ben returned to his hostel in a state of fear, his mind racing as he remembered the task he had been assigned. The idea of planning to harm his own father, a man who had gave all for him. All night, he was busy thinking on how to carry out the task. The next day, Ben traveled home, as his father, Emeka, was surprised seeing him at home. He knew they weren't on break and has already sent money to Ben. He took him inside, eager to know his sudden homecoming. "This one you came home, I hope all is well, my son?" Emeka asked Ben, who lied that they were on short break. It was in the middle of the night. Emeka lay in bed, sleeping, when Ben slowly opened the door, stabbing him with a knife. Emeka's scream woke Sharon, who ran inside, seeing his brother, Ben, stabbing their father. Ben was gripped with fear at the thought of his sister exposing him. The consequences of her revealing what she witnessed could be grave, possibly leading to a death sentence or a lifetime behind bars. As Sharon stood there, shock evident on her face, Ben tried to devise a plan. Should I kill her? Ben contemplated, his mind racing with desperate considerations. No, I couldn't bring myself to be that wicked. With a knife tightly in his hand, Ben advanced towards Sharon, who trembled with fear, imagining a fate similar to their father's death at Ben's hands. "Please, spare me," Sharon's voice shook in fear, prompting Ben to discard the weapon quickly. Kneeling before his sister, he pleaded for her silence, begging her to keep what she had witnessed a secret. Tears streamed down Ben's face as he begged for his sister's silence. He knew the consequences of his actions, but the thought of losing his freedom or even his life was too much to bear. Sharon, still trembling with fear, looked into her brother's eyes and only saw a monster instead. After what felt like an eternity, Sharon nodded in agreement. She knew the gravity of the situation and the danger she was in. She agreed to keep silent, afraid that Ben might harm her. Ben, realizing he couldn't trust Sharon, decided to bring her to stay with Felix after explaining everything that had happened to him. "We're like brothers now, and you sort of got me into this cult against my will. My sister caught me in the act of killing my father, but I don't want to harm her. I want her to be safe and share in the wealth with me. I need her to stay with you for the time being. Once I make enough money, I'll buy a house for both of us," Ben confided in Felix. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, Felix agreed to take Sharon in and promised to keep Ben's secrets safe. As the days passed, Ben went into the world of cybercrime, engaging in fraudulent activities through Yahoo and attracting numerous clients. In just a month, he managed to make $1 million. Wizzy, the leader of the cult group, recognized the potential and success Ben brought to the cult, saying that adding him was a smart move. Their bond grew stronger, and Wizzy promoted Ben to the position of the second-in-command, a decision that angered Felix. Felix felt a surge of anger and jealousy upon learning that Ben had been granted a higher rank in the cult than himself. Determined to reclaim his position, Felix devised a plan. He decided to share the story with Wizzy, informing him that Sharon, Ben's sister, was aware of Ben's murder and could potentially expose them, leading to their arrest. "I know exactly what to do," Felix murmured to himself, fueled by his evil intentions. "I will inform Wizzy about Sharon's supposed knowledge of Ben's murder, manipulating Ben into a situation that will put him against Wizzy." The following day, Felix visited Wizzy at his residence and narrated all that Ben had told him. Wizzy became angry, preparing to confront Ben during their night meeting. It was late at night, and Ben found himself once again in the secretive cult meeting. Suddenly, Wizzy singled him out, delivering a frightening message. "Your sister knows the truth. It's a threat to our secrecy. You must kill her before she reveals our hidden truth," Wizzy demanded boldly. Ben's eyes turned towards Felix, his heart filled with anger. For the second time, Felix had betrayed his trust. Reluctantly, Ben agreed to Wizzy's orders, already planning an escape out of the country with his sister. As time went on, Ben seemed to vanish without a trace. His absence from the cult meetings was noticed by Wizzy and the others, and they grew suspicious when they found his newly acquired home locked up tight, with the gatekeeper revealing that Ben had left with his sister some days ago. Wizzy's anger flared as he realized that Ben had betrayed them, and he set out on a mission to find him. Soon enough, word reached Wizzy that Ben was in Ibadan and planning to leave the country soon. Without hesitation, he sent his men to Ibadan to track Ben down and bring him back to face the consequences of his actions. Ben was unaware that Wizzy's men were searching for him and his sister. He had already packed their bags, eagerly anticipating their departure from the country the next day. That night, after Ben and Sharon had gone to sleep, a sudden knock on the door woke Ben. He was surprised, not expecting any visitors. Fear gripped his heart as he considered the possibility of it being Wizzy and his men at the door. Could it be Wizzy knocking non-stop? Ben wondered to himself as he carefully approached the door to check. Looking through the door's peephole, Ben spotted some of Wizzy's men armed with weapons. Realizing he was in grave danger, Ben panicked, unsure of how to escape. "What should I do? If they get inside, both Sharon and I are in danger. Help me, God," Ben prayed silently as he hurried back to the room to retrieve the sleeping Sharon. Gently carrying Sharon, Ben slowly opened the back door, climbed the compound's fence, and fled into the darkness of the late night. Outside, Wizzy's men grew restless and eventually broke down the door, searching the house only to find it empty. Frustrated, they noticed the open back door, confirming Ben's escape. "We must pursue them. Ben saw us and fled. We can't let Wizzy down this time," one of the men declared as they went to their car, driving off in search of Ben. The gateman lay lifeless, having been shot while trying to prevent the Wizzy's men from entering the compound. Ben was still carrying the sleeping Sharon, unaware of where they were going. As he saw a flashlight of a car, he ran inside the nearby bush. Wizzy's men saw him as they began to run after him. As Ben fearfully ran into the bush, he saw some group of cult boys, holding their meeting there. He knew they were the only ones that could possibly save them. He ran to their middle and knelt down, still with Sharon. "Please, save us, don't allow them to hurt my sister and me. I'm ready to pay back with anything," Ben said to them. Their group leader signaled him to get up, and he did. "This cult group is meant for protection. We are going to protect you both, but you will have to accept to be a member of this cult," the group leader said to Ben, who accepted. He went ahead to place a bead around his neck, signifying that he was now their member. As Wizzy's men went into the bush in search of Ben, they met him with the other cult boys who were in their territory. They knew it was impossible for them to attack and left to inform Wizzy what had happened. Ben narrated all that happened to his new cult group, who promised to protect both him and his sister. When Wizzy heard of what happened, he became angry and prepared his men. He fortified them and gave each one of them guns, ready to attack Ben and his new cult members. He went ahead to obtain information on where they were staying and how they operate. "Heaven bear me witness that I will not hesitate to end that boy and his sister when I eventually catch them," Wizzy said, pointing at the sky. The following day, Wizzy and his men arrived at the house where the rival cult members were hiding out. They searched the place but didn't find anyone. Just as they were about to leave, they noticed the other cult boys pulling up in a car, so they waited. Once they got out of the vehicle, both groups opened fire, as they started shooting at themselves. Ben and Sharon were too scared to leave the safety of the car. Ben was quickly planning an escape plan with his sister. The sound of gunfire grew louder, causing fear among the people living in the area. They worried that stray bullets might hit them. In the midst of the confusion, a woman who sold provisions nearby quickly ran to the nearest police station to alert them about the ongoing shootout. She urgently informed the officers, "There are some cult boys shooting in front of my store, please come quickly to help before someone gets hurt." The officers were happy to finally have information about the cult members' location and immediately headed towards the scene to intervene. They had been on the lookout for the cult boys who were staying in Ibadan and had been involved in a series of crimes. The police inspector and his team got into their van and headed to the location, determined to arrest the cult boys. "Quick, the officers are here, let's get out of here before they catch us," one of the cult boys said as they all ran into the nearby bush. Meanwhile, Ben and Sharon remained in the car, watching the scene unfold. Ben realized something was wrong when he saw the cult boys running and noticed the police presence. He quickly lowered both his and Sharon's heads to avoid the police seeing them. Some of the officers pursued the cult boys into the bush while 2 officers stayed by the car, keeping a lookout. The cult boys, in a daring move, tried to challenge the police by shooting at them, but the officers managed to arrest them and drag them back to the police van. Just when they were about to take the captured cult boys to the station, Sharon suddenly screamed from inside the car, alerting the officers to someone still being inside. "Why did you scream?" Ben questioned Sharon as she pushed open the car door and ran towards the officers. She pointed at the car, urging them not to let the person inside escape. "One of them is still inside, don't let him escape." One of the officers quickly went to the car and dragged Ben out before they all headed back to the station. At the police station, Sharon narrated how she had caught Ben killing their father. The officers then proceeded to search their phones and discovered their involvement in fraudulent activities. The case was then taken to court where the final judgment would be made, determining the fate of Ben and the other cult boys. On the day of judgment, Ben's fate, along with the others, would be determined. The courtroom was filled with people, including Sharon, who couldn't help but keep her eyes on Ben as he stood in the defendant's box with the rest. As the court proceedings started, the judge spoke, saying, "After thorough investigation, it is clear that you all are involved in heinous crimes such as murder, cultism, and fraudulent activities like yahoo. This court deems it fit to sentence you all to life imprisonment with hard labor." With the judge's hammer hitting on the desk, the final verdict was made. Ben and the others were escorted into the police van for prison, as Ben looked back at Sharon with tears in his eyes, while she wept openly. The government took responsibility for Sharon, providing for her every need. Despite having exposed her brother, Sharon yearned for his eventual return to her, wishing for a day when they could be reunited. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment what you think about this story. Bye for now.